And welcome to this. It's a great pleasure to be here as chairman for the first time. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. I'd like to welcome Owen, who is on work experience for the week with us and South Hams. So I hope you find this interesting. I know you're enthusiastic. I hope you're as enthusiastic at the end as you were at the beginning. So,
thank you, Chair. Members, apologies to Councillor Casbolt and Southcott is subbing on for Councillor Casbolt. Thank you, Chair.
And Councillor Watts is on her way.
Indeed, yes.
Stuck in traffic at the moment.
Indeed.
So, move on to item minutes. The audit 2026. That better? Does that sound better? It's on to confirmation of minutes to approve as a correct record the minutes of the audit committee held on the 10th March 2026, which has been circulated. The true record to me. Everybody happy to approve those? Those in favour, please show.
Carry for the minutes, thank you, Chair.
Little B, to note the audit and governance hearing subcommittee decision from the meeting held on the 9th of June, which was held here in the council chamber. Very straightforward report. Councillor Oxborough, who's here, and myself form part of that subcommittee along with Councillor Cunningham. I think we just need to note that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Move on then to item 3, items requiring urgent attention, to consider those items which, in the opinion of the chairman, should be considered by the meeting as matters of urgency. I do not have any. So, okay. We'll move on then to item 4, division of agenda, to consider whether the discussion of any item of business is likely to lead to the disclosure of exempt information, and I do not believe it will. Okay. Item 5, declarations of interest. In accordance with the Code of Conduct, members are invited to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any items to be considered at this meeting. Are there any declarations of interest, please? No? Right, item 6, draft statement of accounts and draft annual governance statement. This.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm pleased to present the draft statement of accounts and draft annual governance statement for the financial year ending the 31st of March 2026. These documents provide a comprehensive overview of the Council's financial performance, financial position and governance arrangements during the year. I'm pleased to report that the Council has delivered a surplus of $220,000 for 25-26, representing 2.5% of the net budget. This positive outcome reflects effective financial management, strong budget monitoring and the successful delivery of income targets despite a challenging local government funding environment. The $220,000 surplus has gone into unearmarked reserves and increased the balance to $2.04 million as at the 31st of March. The accounts also demonstrate the Council's continued commitment to investing in the borough through significant capital projects, including the Oakhampton Interchange Transport Hub, housing initiatives supported through the Local Authority Housing Fund, disabled facilities grants, energy efficiency improvements, and infrastructure enhancements across our communities. A simplified summary accounts document has been produced alongside the statutory accounts, providing residents, businesses, and stakeholders with a clear and user-friendly overview of the council's finances. I mentioned unearmarked reserves a few moments ago, and you will have noted that earmarked reserves have increased by 800,000 to a year-end figure of 12.84 million. Looking at collection rates, the council tax collection rate for the year was 98.13% against a target of 98%, ensuring that the council maintains its top quartile position nationally. The business rate collection rate was 97.39, placing the council in the second quartile nationally. Alongside the financial statements, members are asked to note the draft annual governance statement, which confirms the council's commitment to maintaining strong governance, continuous improvement. The statement reflects our assessment of the effectiveness of the council's governance arrangements and provides assurance that appropriate systems and controls remain in place. The draft statement of accounts was published on the 30th of June 26, in line with the target date for publication. Bishop Fleming are due to commence the external audit of the accounts in the middle of July. I'd like to place on record my thanks to the finance team and all those involved in the preparation of these documents. Producing the statement of accounts is a significant undertaking and demonstrates the professionalism and dedication of staff in ensuring that the council meets its statutory responsibilities. And finally, Chair, the committee is recommended to note the draft statement of accounts, the draft summary accounts, and the draft annual governance statement for 2025-26. Thank you.
Questions? Councillor Roxburgh and then Councillor Cheadle, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the page 29 of the report, the extra ICT costs, is there a particular reason why they occurred? It's quite a significant sum of money. I'm just wondering why that occurred in year, and could it have been foreseen and there could have been a budget for it, or could it have been foreseen and avoided perhaps with better planning? I don't know.
Thank you. Are you able to answer that, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. With regards to ICT, in terms of the prices, we have seen that when we are renewing some of our contracts for ICT, we have seen that prices are significantly increasing. That is across the board. Two reasons for that. Some of that is inflation linked, and some of it is in terms of the supplier increases that we are seeing. So all councils, I think, are seeing their ICT support contract costs going up for things like software licenses. What we have done is, in addressing that, in looking forwards to next year's budget, we have increased the ICT budget for both councils. Obviously, we benefit from the fact that we have got shared services with South Hams, so we've are still seeing prices increase, and I think that will continue into 26, 27 and 27, 28. So in terms of could we have foreseen that, I don't think we could, but we are starting to see a pattern of more than inflationary increases on our ICT contracts. So in recognition of that, we are increasing the budget going forwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you've foreseen it for next year and taken appropriate action then. Thank you.
Yes, exactly right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cheadle next, please.
Yeah, very quick one. Issue. Is that reflected in this set of accounts, or does that come out of the current year, as it were?
Mrs. Buckle, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So it will be a bit of half and half, really. So in terms of the debt that we were owed, we have accounted for that in these sets of accounts in 25-26, and that is a material item which is set out in the accounts. So we have taken account of that in that we have fully provided for that bad debt. Going forwards, that in 2027, that's when we will physically write the debt off. So although we've accounted and financed the bad debt in this set of accounts, what we haven't done yet is written that debt off because our ledger provider went into administration on the 1st of April, so that was after the year end. So that the write-off of the debt will happen in 26-27. And with regards to the new arrangements with our new supplier, Parkwood, for example, we know that probably there will need some investment into repairs and maintenance at our leisure centre. That will happen in this financial year, 26-27. So some of it is reflected last year, some of it will be reflected in the next financial year, 26-27. But there is a page that sets out that material items within the accounts there, and it explains that. So in our explanatory forward in the narrative report, we do talk about leisure services. It's on page 33. And we do say there that the Hub Committee considered a report on the provision of leisure services. That set out that Council on the 3rd of March approved the use of £500,000 of reserves to fund the leisure service. £500,000 is reflected in this set of accounts. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor West, please.
Just going back slightly to the point Councillor Oxburgh was talking about, all the section. I'm interested to see, we know we've had this issue throughout, which is partly why we get involved with buying up properties to help support homeless accommodation. Obviously, in terms of some of the loss we were unable to account for, there is a figure, I'm trying to find it now, typical £190,000 additional cost to us. Have we done any modelling for the current financial year for that? Did we allow for that in the budget? Apologies in previous meetings.
Excuse me, Mrs. Buckle, I don't think your microphone's working
sorry.
very well.
Better? Hopefully, thank you. Hopefully that's picking up the sound now. So with regards to homelessness and temporary accommodation costs, we have seen, and we've also seen this financial year as well, that our temporary accommodation costs are, it was about £190,000 overall. We haven't increased the budget for 26-27, partly because we are hoping to contain demand with regards to temporary accommodation. We've also done things like gain government grant through local authority housing fund and purchase some of the council's own. So we have got 13 properties now which the Borough Council owns, which we feel would start to mitigate those costs around temporary accommodation. It may be a little bit above budget as we go into 26-27, but that's just something we're going to keep an eye on with regards to temporary accommodation costs. We haven't seen the huge increase in temporary accommodation costs that some other district councils have seen. So, for example, some councils which are not much bigger than West Devon, their temporary accommodation costs are sort of £1 million over budget. We haven't got those levels of huge demand that some other councils have, but it's certainly one we will keep an eye on. And when we do our next budget monitoring report, which will come to the Hub Committee around November, we'll start to model whether or not we're going to be over budget against that homelessness budget.
I mean, my concern was obviously around the Renters' Rights Act and the impact potentially that's having on the rental market, private rental market. That's fine. Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Mr. Hutchins?
Thank you, Chair. So a general comment and a more detailed question, if I may. General comment is thank you to Lisa and the team, I think, for putting the accounts together. I know the timescales are very tight, and I find them very readable and very commendable financial performance. I also thought that the annual governance statement was very strong. The fact that you've had the peer reviews in certain areas, I think that adds to our assurance that there's good arrangements for governance in place for the council. A more detailed question, which I appreciate officers around the table may not know the answer to at this moment in time, but on page 42 of the accounts, page 64, table setting out the earmark reserves. Thank you. There's one there for waste and recycling. And the balance that's at the end of the 31st of March 2026 is almost twice what it was at the start of the year. It stands out really as an increase in balance. I'm just wondering if there's any particular reason for that which I hadn't picked up from reading the notes in the accounts.
Yes, that's right. So in 25-26, we did get a government grant. It's called the EPR grant, which stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. Yeah, a grant which district councils and county councils and unitaries received, and that was about recycling of packaging. So we received that grant. It was over £1 million. Some of it we used to fund our waste service, so we used it to fund our base budget, but the remainder of that we put into the waste and recycling earmark reserve. So of that £1 million, about 250,000 went into our base budget, which you can see there on the transfers out. The remainder went into the waste reserve. There are plans to spend that waste reserve, so we have some capital investment with regards to waste vehicles, and also capital investment with regards to waste infrastructure at one of our depots. So although the balance on that waste and recycling reserve shows 980,000, when we project forward our reserves for the next 2 years, you will see that being spent on reinvestment into the service. So we will be bringing a report to the Hub Committee in September. So alongside our medium-term financial strategy, we will take the reserves and model them forward over the next 2 years so that members can see how those reserves will move over the next 2 financial years, which are the 2 financial years remaining of the Borough Council. So yes, hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oxborough?
Thank you. It's just another one on the reduction in some income. The waste sale of recyclate. Is there an explanation as to why that fell by effectively 50%, as we're told in the report? Is it due to not collecting it as much, or is it the price per tonne has changed? What's behind? Is there anything that can be done about that in the future?
I think Mr. Molyneux is offering to answer that one, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So basically, the recyclate market is very volatile. So wars in the Middle East impact the processing and the prices that are paid per tonne for that. So it's not about the amount of recycling claimed; it's about the So when it comes back on, so that's what it reflects. So yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Can I just make an observation to say that I'm incredibly impressed that the draft accounts were completed within the timescale and ready for audit by Bishop Fleming. And I understand they're going to, have they started the audit? Bishop Fleming started the audit. It's mid-July it's talked about. So, Pauline, sorry, Mrs. Henstock.
They start on Thursday, Chair, so.
Well done.
Yes.
Excellent, well done. So we've had questions. Any further debate required? So can we have a recommendation before us? Can we note that recommendation? Yeah, everybody in favour, please show.
That's duly noted. Thank you, Chair.
Right, we then move on to the progress of the 2025-26 internal audit plan and annual option. Before we take that item, can I introduce Joe McCormick, who is the interim head of Devon Assurance Partnership. Congratulations, Joe. It's lovely to have you here. And I think you're going to introduce your team to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As said, so our recent head of Devon Assurance Partnership has left us, so really recently, a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to be the interim head of Devon Assurance Partnership going forward. With that, just some internal changes, just sort of help sort of backfill, etc., just to make the committee aware. But Ian Baker, who's with me today, he has been looking after in a management capacity South Hams and West Devon for well over a year now, so there's continuity there. Ian will now be coming along to your audit and governance committees to give the updates and the end of year report, etc., throughout the year. So just to let the committee know, so there's changing arrangements in terms of Ian attending the committees.
Thank you for that. So could I ask now Councillor Edmonds, please, to present the report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Internal Audit Annual Report for 2025-26 provides a comprehensive overview of the internal audit activity completed during the year and the Chief Internal Auditor's annual opinion. I'm pleased to note the overall opinion for 2025-26 is one of reasonable importance, confirming that there is a sound system of governance, risk management and internal control operating. Received a substantial assurance rating, including treasury management, mail accounting, payroll, and corporate performance management. The report identifies areas where improvements can be made, and officers are already taking action to strengthen controls and processes further. The report confirms that the Council maintains strong governance arrangements and effective stewardship of public funds and provides assurance that those arrangements remain fit for purpose and will also form an important element of the evidence supporting the Council's annual governance statement. I'd like to thank the internal audit team, officers and managers across the Council for their cooperation and commitment throughout the audit process. And the recommendation is that the committee any key issues raised in the audit plan update and the Chief Internal Auditor's annual opinion of reasonable assurance.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Do we have any questions, please? Councillor Roxburgh.
Thank you. Is there a reason why the home's energy management is not applicable in the main table? So I'll just go back up to that and I get the correct phraseology. I just skipped off the page, sorry. The Homes Energy Grant 2526. It's on page 168. We're told that it's not applicable. Is there a reason why it's not applicable? I don't recall what was reported in December. My apologies.
With some of the audits, where they're just grants and things, we don't give an opinion. So it doesn't say reasonable, substantial or limited. So we just put not applicable in terms of we're not giving an opinion, we've just signed the grant off.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you. I'm sure I asked this question last time, but so apologies that I forgot the answer.
on page 191, which is the page of little pie graphs on the customer survey results. On that one? Although overall the results were positive, everyone's very satisfied with the way things were done. There is a small number of people that weren't satisfied or they were poor. I mean, is there any explanation for that?
Through you, Chair.
Yes, please.
In terms of this, we've obviously analysed the feedback that we get, and in terms of the poor that has come out, which is quite small, it has been down to timing. So obviously when we're scheduling our audit work across the year, we do work with managers to ensure that it's a good time for that audit to take place, to minimise disruption as much as possible, but we are working within sort of a 12-month period. So on this particular occasion, we just had some feedback in terms of the timing not being the best time, but we needed to get the work done by the end of Q4, so therefore the work did need to go ahead. But as much as possible, we are minimising disruption to management and scheduling the work in advance across the period of the year. So what I would say is the feedback that you're looking at as part of this report is across the partnership, not solely for West Devon. So it wasn't specific for West Devon in terms of that feedback.
Thanks very much. I'm sure our set of figures would be much better than that then.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Mr Hutchins, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. A very positive report. Thank you. And not really a question, but more of a comment in that we've got a nice lot of green ratings there, substantial ratings. And I think that's very, very positive. And I really like the assurance that you provided in the documents. I think that's really, really helpful. Thank you. So my question was really just making sure that we're using the internal audit resources in the right place, and that we're not just giving ourselves reassurance on areas that we know are likely to be working effectively, and it's just getting assurance from our internal auditors that we are targeting the right areas in our internal audit plan.
Chair. Please. I'll take you back to sort of the planning process that we go through to come up with the plan for the year, and that's a risk-based assurance plan that we're working to. So hopefully the committee remembers sort of the workshop that we held in order to look at the targeting towards the key risks of the authority, and that's what the plan is looking at. So yes, we're looking at the key areas of risk. We also discuss with members of the SLT in terms of any areas that they may have concerns about that we may need to be looking at. So it's ensuring that we are looking at broad coverage across the authority in terms of those risks. Looking at the strategic risk registers, the operational risk registers that they've got in place here as well. Looking back over previous work to see if there's been any sort of concerns before. And it's ensuring that we've got that sort of full outlook on potential areas of risk and actually areas of audit focus for like the audit universe. So it's making sure we're covering that. So I would say yes, our audit plan is aligned to the risks that are facing the authority. And obviously the benefits of being part of the partnership is that we generally are fully aware of all the risks that face local government in general, and ensuring that we're keeping up to date with the sort of topical areas, topical requirements that come through the Institute of Internal Auditors is really important. So those topical requirements were also built into that planning stage as well, to think if they were useful areas to be considered here. And it's important to remember that the plan that we set going forward is always going to be agile. So if there's new or emerging risks that we need to take into account during the year, then we will flex that plan and bring those changes back to the committee as well. So yeah, very risk-based planning approach to get that plan right for each authority.
Thank you. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Any further questions, please? We need to note and approve that. Yeah, shall I read it out? Recommendation is that the progress made and any key issues arising from the internal audit plan update and the Chief Internal Auditor's annual option are noted and approved. So can you please note this, and then can we have a vote on approval, please? Thank you. That's everybody.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, we now move on to item 8, which is the Internal Audit Charter and Strategy. And Jo, if you could present that, because I think you're presenting this, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the document that you have in your packs today for the Internal Audit Charter is a standard document that we would have across all our clients that we bring to the committee on an annual basis for to be noted by the committee. So if I just give you a bit of an overview on what this charter contains. So it is a proposed internal audit charter, and it sets out the purpose, the authority, the independence that Devon Assurance Partnership has, and it aligns it to the new global internal audit standards within the UK public sector, which came mandatory from the 1st of April 25. So the charter confirms that internal audit's role is to provide that independent assurance, advice and insight to support effective governance, risk management and internal control. So it reinforces our sort of DAP statutory authority under the accounts and audit regs, including that our unrestricted access to records and systems, etc., in order to carry out the work that we do across the year. It also clarifies the responsibilities of the head of DAP as your chief audit executive, including reporting directly to the Audit and Governance Committee and maintaining that risk-based assurance plan, and then providing our annual opinion on governance risk management and control that we've done today. So that's sort of a high-level summary of the charter, but as I said, it is a standard document that we do bring to each committee for noting each year.
Thank you for that. Do any members have any questions, comments to make about it? So we've been asked to note the contents of the report, and I see that I have to sign it as well. So are we happy with that? Oh, happy with that? Please show if you're in favour. Thank you.
That's approved for noting. Thank you.
We now move on to the Annual Counter Fraud Resilience and Assessment Report 2025-26, and I'm pleased to welcome Rachel Worsley, who is joining us on Teams. So welcome, Rachel. If you'd like to run through this item, please.
Thank you, Chair. The report they have presents the Council's annual counter-fraud and resilience assessment, providing you with an overview of the authority's current counter-fraud arrangements and the emerging risks, and an assessment against recognised national good practice standards. So overall, the position is positive. The assessment concludes that the Council is compliant with almost all recognised counter-fraud best practice expectations, and it's got sound foundations in place to prevent fraud, detect it and respond to fraud risks. Now, importantly, this conclusion isn't subjective. It is based on a structured benchmarking against CIPFA and CIFAS's counter-fraud best practice framework, and that is detailed within Appendix 1 of the report. So, to provide you with some context, there are some evolving fraud threats, and it will come no surprise to members that fraud continues to be one of the most significant risks that faces the public sector. And nationally, fraud continues to grow, both in scale and its sophistication, and that is particularly driven by digital service delivery, the use of AI and synthetic identities, and organised and remote criminal activity. Now, the national estimations put losses to the public sector between 55 billion and 81 billion per year. And alongside that, a new bill was passed called the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act. And from September 2025, that act introduced a new corporate offence of the failure to prevent fraud. Now, the key implication of that act for West Devon is that it must be able to demonstrate robust, proportionate and well-evidenced fraud prevention arrangements, which of course this report does support. Now, Appendix 1 provides the detailed benchmarking against 38 best practice expectations, and that's where the committee can take most assurance. And I will just highlight a few areas for you. And the first area is around governance and risk management. The framework recognises the importance of such understanding and assessing the fraud risk, and the report notes that work is progressing to develop and formalise a dedicated fraud and corruption risk register, which will strengthen the authority's understanding of fraud exposure and support regular reporting to senior management. Within expectations 1 and 2, it recognises the use of horizon scanning through Devon Assurance Partnership, its regional networks and the audit intelligence to identify those emerging risks. Now, fraud is also considered within the wider fraud corporate risk management framework, demonstrating that fraud is being viewed as a strategic governance issue rather than solely an operational concern. And the second area I'd like to bring to your attention is around strategy and policy framework. So under expectation 6, the council does have appropriate counter-fraud arrangements in place through its anti-fraud, bribery and corruption policy, its strategy and response plan, which are developed with support from Devon Assurance Partnership and were approved by this committee. Now, the assessment further confirms that the Council maintains a zero-tolerance approach to fraud and corruption, which is supported by governance arrangements, the codes of conduct, a declaration of interests, and gifts and hospitality registers. And then we can't forget that there are whistleblowing arrangements in place, which are all referenced within expectations 12 and 16. And that provides a strong control environment, demonstrating a clear tone from the top. Now, in the areas of audit committee and governance oversight, if we reference expectation 3 and 5, within there it demonstrates a key strength which is identified in the report, and that is the continuing role of audit committee oversight. Now, the assessment confirms that annual reporting arrangements are in place and that members have an important role in supporting and scrutinising and challenging the effectiveness and proportionality of counter-fraud activity, reinforcing the importance of your ongoing oversight and scrutiny as a control within the Council's overall fraud governance framework. Now, if we move into the areas of prevention, detection and proactive work, the report identifies several proactive measures which are already in place, because West Devon continues to participate in the National Fraud Initiative, which remains one of the most effective national data matching exercises available to local government. Data submissions are undertaken as required, and matches are actively reviewed and investigated, which is confirmed within expectations 30 to 32. Now, evidenced within expectation 28, the Council conducts proactive counter-fraud activity, which is linked to audit reviews, the council tax single person discount exercises, and the use of data-led approaches to identify potential fraud risks. And those things show that the Council is not simply reacting to fraud allegations, but is actively seeking opportunities to prevent and detect fraud before those losses occur. Now, regarding the culture, awareness and specialist capability, the report recognises the importance of developing a strong anti-fraud culture. Within expectations 15, 16 and 17, they can demonstrate that awareness and whistleblowing arrangements are established. However, as with previous years, work does continue to further embed fraud awareness and strengthen counter-fraud culture across the organisation, and this remains an area of ongoing development rather than a significant concern. As referenced within expectations 33 to 35, the Council meets the requirements by having access to specialist expertise through its arrangements with Devon Assurance Partnership, who employ accredited counter-fraud specialists and have access to those technical experts. And this will ensure that any investigations that need to be undertaken and any preventative work that can be professionally delivered and will be proportionate. Now, while the overall position is positive, there are areas for continued development and enhancement. So, as I mentioned earlier, fraud does continue to grow in both scale and its sophistication, which is why fraud resilience isn't a fixed achievement, but it's actually something that you have to achieve through an ongoing process. And therefore, what the Council should be doing is to continue to the development of that fraud risk register and those horizon scanning arrangements, improving the collection and reporting of fraud activity and outcome data, and expanding proactive fraud prevention and data analytics work, and further embedding training and awareness across the organisation. There is also the opportunity to explore greater sharing, data sharing and collaboration with neighbouring authorities and partners, and to ensure that resources remain proportionate to those emerging fraud risks. And again, these are opportunities to strengthen resilience rather than highlighting any significant weakness within the current control environment. Therefore, in conclusion, the Council can demonstrate a clear commitment to counter-fraud resilience and has established sound arrangements for prevention, detection and investigation activity. The assessment provides positive assurance that the authority's arrangements are broadly consistent with recognised national good practice, supported by specialist expertise from Devon Assurance Partnership and participation in national counter-fraud initiatives. However, as mentioned, fraud threats do continue to evolve rapidly, particularly through advances in technology and that AI-enabled criminal activity. So maintaining resilience will therefore require continued vigilance, ongoing development of proactive controls, and sustained organisational commitment. But the report does demonstrate that Council is well placed, but of course must continue to adapt. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Rachel. I think that was a full and comprehensive report. Do we have any questions, please, members? Councillor Roxburgh.
Thank you, Chair. Early on, you used the words, "we are almost compliant with all areas." Could you be very specific in identifying which areas we're not yet fully compliant and what we need to do about it, please?
Is that okay, Chair? So the area you're not fully compliant is that development of that fraud risk register is still a work in progress, and some attention to ensure that is developed in full would help you become fully compliant.
Okay.
Yeah, probably a difficult question to answer, but your opening statement that across the country, government fraud, I think you mentioned, was between 50 and 80 billion pounds, which suggests that there's a lot of detected fraud and undetected fraud. I wonder what the ratio of the two generally is. And for us in West Devon, if let's say it was 50-50, if we're detecting a certain amount of fraud, that implies there's quite a lot of fraud going on that we're not detecting. You follow the line of questioning I'm going down.
I do. Okay. The estimates put that only one-third. Sorry.
Rachel, I think we need to leave and hold it a minute, please. We've got a technical issue here.
Oh, switch off and switch back on again. Switch on. Switch on.
Phone goes off.
Phone's gone off.
It was.
All the batteries out.
Take it out. All right, so much for Nope.